You ready? All right, let's go ahead.
Right up front.
Test. There we go. Thank you, Tyler. All right, good afternoon, everybody. Today's Wednesday, March the 25th, 2026. This is a special session of the Commissioners Court. This time, I ask Commissioner Monroe to lead us in prayer, followed by the pledges.
Heavenly Father, we come before you today, and we just want to thank you for all your blessings that you give to us, Lord. And Lord, I ask that you just continue to protect our men and women that serve in the armed forces, Lord, to keep us safe. Lord, I ask you to continue to bless our first responders. Lord, I ask today that you give us wisdom and guidance, Lord, on how to navigate through the things we have to navigate through today, Lord. And I ask you just to help us to continue to lead with integrity. It's in Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, indivisible.
All right, thank you, everyone. At this time, we have Commissioner Money, Commissioner Monroe, Commissioner Smith. I'm Commissioner Harrison, Precinct 4, also Judge Pro Tem. At this time, we'll go into public testimony. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes and should conduct themselves in a civil manner. The Commissioners Court cannot take action on items not listed on the agenda in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act. Concerns will be addressed by county staff. They may be placed on a future agenda or addressed by some other course of response. First up, Carol Davis.
Hello, I'm Carol Davis, and my concern was air quality, but after yesterday's meeting, I'm more concerned, I suppose, about the county officials being unaware of this until supposedly only 2 weeks ago. And even it seemed like our representative at the state level here was maybe also unaware for a bit. And I'd like to know what y'all might have planned. You don't have to answer obviously now, but as far as hiring any experts to advise the county, since y'all seem to not have the, let's say, sufficient facts and information at hand to have asked all the questions that was needed. And I would suggest that you devise a task force of people from the community, and I'm not volunteering myself, but other people, and maybe individuals from the local electric utilities and water, and I suppose any other individual like would be concerned with any kind of toxic waste, maybe firefighters. And I guess my concern would be that just because y'all seem to think that you have no control, you do have some control. Now, even President Trump, with his recent framework he's come out with, is behind data centers, but he has not taken any action as far as environmental conditions. And that remains to be seen. And yesterday, there was a mention by the facility, or Core Scientific, that they have passed reliability studies, but it's in my brief reading last night at almost midnight, I found out that ERCOT is going back to look at these reliability studies because there's so many of them coming online that maybe this project is in batch 0 and it may be reanalyzed. But I guess my big concern also is it's disingenuous for the engineer to have a speculative, for no reason, purchase of a 268-acre property and only going to utilize 70 acres of it. You know, it makes me kind of think that there's going to be more development down the road. And although this may be for AI, there is the situation, it could be done for crypto mining, which will be very noisy and be far different than just a data center. And I don't know if anybody's ever looked at any of the pictures of the ones up in Denton or anything, but they're quite massive. And so there are environmental concerns, like a gentleman yesterday said about water runoff, and I'm concerned about the air quality. And the fact that the engineer didn't even say that they had designed any backup generators, what that looks like, because that to me would be the air quality pollution. So those are my remarks. I'll send in more though, obviously.
Thank you. Megan Landreth.
Hello. I'm just going to read what I have written. First of all, Gary, I want to thank you for being transparent and opening up the floor for everyone to help everyone gain knowledge and to what we have going on here. So my name is Megan Landreth. My husband and I live at 5333 County Road 3508. My in-laws live next door and were the first to build in this area in 1987. They paid to have the road put in, which is 3508, or also known as Landers Lane. Neighbors and I are not trusting to these big corporations since we already have been put through solar farm being put in 2024 and not knowing it was happening until it was. They stated that they would make things better than they were when they left, and they did fix the things that they had messed up in the roads and ditches. We also have to live with the day-to-day for months of building, trucks coming up and down the road, all hours of the day, along with blocking the road for multiple trucks to come through at a time. It's a nuisance for our rural area. Here are the bullet points concerning the data center. Well, first of all, I just want y'all to know that it's literally in my backyard. Regarding water, I am pleased that it seems like their water cooling systems won't require consistent water use or have dumping on the ground, and that is relieving. There is also a possibility that they would bring in their own water initially. We would request the county to mandate a chemical testing annually for toxins. Regarding electric, ERCOT said that they would that it was doable for them to put the facility in, meaning that it could handle the load without causing blackouts. But they only plan to put in another power plant switching station, so that means they will be sucking more of our energy. Everything that I've read, all the locals end up paying for those extra fees. Regarding jobs, they say they will be bringing jobs to our community. Yes, when they are building for the first 2 years, there will be a lot of jobs happening. But once the facility is built, she stated that 35 to 50 people will be running the building, and that's not bringing jobs to our community long term. Considering threat. I'm also concerned that these data centers could be a danger to attacks. We already have L3 that has government contracts here. Concerning animals. This is something that wasn't brought up yesterday. We personally have livestock, and all of our neighbors have livestock, and I've read where animals are not being able to reproduce, and wildlife is running out of the areas where data centers are currently at. This concerns me that they could also be putting off EMFs. We already know large amounts of this can cause birth defects and other things. Regarding sound, I am concerned more initially with the effects that it has on our bodies than what it damages to our ears. She said it's 40 to 60 decibels, which is a whisper, noise, or talking. This can still cause sleep deprivation and other health issues. Sound can affect the body, and when you're hearing it 24/7, it's different than hearing it on and off. It affects your nervous system, and it can never have a chance to calm down. I'll skip over. Also, there's going to be more light pollution, and I know anybody that lives out in the country with open fields appreciates the stars, and that would be another added to that. We love where we live, and we would hate to see this affect our health or us around us, you know. So also I wanted to ask about What about the other data center that's on 8293 County Road 2276? So it's something I know that it was casually mentioned yesterday. But I thank y'all very much for giving us the time today. Thank you.
Thank you. Carol Solomon.
Good morning, good afternoon, thank you so much. My name is Carol Solomon, I live at 7749 FM 2101. And I'm here to discuss some of the items regarding Core Scientific. I guess what I'd like to know is a little bit more about this company and how long have they been in business? Has anybody asked that question? I don't know. And of that,
2017.
pardon me? Thank you. And how many data centers have they actually built and are up and running at this point? Okay. I'd also like to know who pays the actual construction costs, all aspects, the buildings, the roads, the infrastructure. Do we have those numbers, or do we know who exactly is going to be responsible for those? What uses have, I was going to ask them also, what uses have they encountered with other centers that they've built, and how are they resolved? Ask that question and try to find out how they're resolved, and I think that'd be important information for us to know. The last thing is, I looked up electronic waste, trying to understand what that meant, and it basically says discarded or obsolete electronic equipment and components used to power, run, and cool the AI computing systems. What's going to happen to that equipment? Is it going to be dumped somewhere? Do they have a way of disposing of it without burying it or destroying our lands? Thank you.
So just for everybody's edification, on questions associated with Core Scientific, obviously it would be unfair for us to attempt to answer on their behalf. If you want to submit those to us, we will get them compiled and ask them to address that. And so you're certainly welcome to ask them in here, because we're interested in any other questions you have. But if you'll get those to us, then we'll send that to them officially and ask for a response.
And Commissioner Smith is making notes over here so we can get some of these questions answered for you as well. Harris Hollingsworth.
So my name's Harris Hollingsworth. I live at 1315 FM 1564 East, Quinlan, Texas. I know about 25% of y'all. I'm sorry. I just found out about this yesterday. I'm not a Facebook phenom. You know, things happen in other parts of the world. I kind of close my eyes. But yesterday I saw a bulletin from the meeting I believe y'all had, and one of the things I was looking at, you know, they picked this area, blah, blah, blah. There's water, there's electricity, there's battery plants, blah. It's in an unincorporated area of Wheeling, Texas, my backyard. Man, that is tough stuff, y'all. The energy, it's really weird. People sometimes tell you God told them something or something like that. I'm a YouTube guy on TV when I go home at night, and I usually watch Cody Webster bullfighting or something to do with cattle, and I'm sitting doing a little research this morning, and it pops up on my algorithm on my TV, the negative things of data centers. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. So one of the things that I noted was the U.S. Department of Energy did a study on these in 2024, and the energy use in the United States was 4% for these data centers, projected to be 12% in 2026. So I have been a part of a blackout in that area. Luckily, the company that I have, I don't think is going to be affiliated with this place. The only other thing I had, like I said, I met a bunch of my neighbors back here didn't even know about. You know, the noise that everybody talks about is going to come with vibration too. And that's what really bothers me. I have cattle. Y'all see my stance on agriculture? I mean, it's the way, but it's going away. So I didn't know, are y'all planning on having another one of these meetings maybe after 5 one day? Because I think a lot of my neighbors probably work during the day and can't take off at this time. I was just curious.
So, yes. And so one of the things that, a lot of the questions y'all are asking are things that we're going to talk about once everybody's through feeding us information here. Core Scientific has actually agreed to come back in and do a town hall on their own. And then the things that we're going to go through today, we're trying to gather enough information where we can come back and then respond back to y'all and say, here's where the county's at on what we know and what we can do here and what we've learned. So if the court agrees, I know there'll be one for sure with Core Scientific. I think they would probably be willing to come back twice. And then as we gather information, we're going to want to communicate as well.
So I'm just a no country boy, but I'm just thinking, if they got 70 acres and they're gonna build this data center on it, the ones I'm looking at don't take up 70 acres of land. And I know they would need land to dump water on, something like that, but are we prepared if they wanna add a second, a third, and fourth one to the same location? Are we prepared? Is Hunt County prepared for that?
From what perspective?
For them tripling that thing or quadrupling it in the next 10 years?
So once I'll have to defer to them if how much.
If they want to do that,
I'm
are we
saying,
prepared?
from what they're saying, they're going to consume that location with what their current plans are, is my understanding.
That's what I understood. That one system was going to.
Are they going to increase in their population? And then what is it going to do to our electrical, our water, the impact on the environment around?
Absolutely.
everything? Is there a plan for this? So many of these families, that's
So,
Sir,
Come up in a minute.
Yeah, come up on the mic if you want to
That's
speak,
all I
so we
have.
Get it on record.
I appreciate the time today.
good questions.
Thank you very much.
Good questions.
get on the microphone so y'all can hear me here. Normally
Yes,
you
sir.
can hear me
Just
pretty
state
good.
your name, please.
All right,
sir.
I'm Charles Metter. I live at 609 Private Road, 3141. I have addressed some of y'all. Gary, you've got a letter from us. I also represent the Friends of Hunt County for water. That's what we're here for. I did not make the meeting yesterday. I apologize for that, but we've got some of the notes. And within the letter that we sent to you, please look at the options that you have under law to hold them accountable for all the things that they're doing, like this young man just brought up. They have to be accountable because the environment will go to pieces around these things. We're going to lose our infrastructure with all of our animals. Our ecosystems are going to change. We won't have the bees, we won't have the birds, the pollinators. We've already got that problem with the solar panels. It does not allow that to come around. This used to be a rural county. Now it's almost like we're trying to turn into downtown Houston because we're adding all this stuff in. And the reason why they're trying to come here is because we took care of it for so long, and now somebody from the outside is coming in trying to tell us we're going to lose this. But it's the pollution, what it's doing to the families. Think about your family that you've been, many of you all have been here. I retired out of the military and came here because I love the community. Think about where your family came from, what you started with. When you start to make these decisions, go for it. Doesn't matter if it's hard, because these families, this matters to them. This is their future. It's also their past. And these companies come in, like this one was bankrupt 3 years ago. They filed Chapter 11. What means that they're not going to come in here, start on the middle of all of this, and screw it up again? It's in the letter, Gary. I gave it to you, and I'm sure you can share that with everybody there instead of going down the whole litany of it. But the bottom line is this is people's lives. It's their history, their future, and actually their current now. And we need to look out for it because these companies don't care about us. They never have. And you start putting that water into the soil, how many more years will it take for that to actually, Mother Earth to come back and fix that? 20, 30, 40 years? There's places up in Arkansas right now, I've been up here for 30, 40 years, and they still haven't gotten right. You know, and you've also got potentials of lithium mining coming in other areas within a couple counties of us. How's that all going to affect where we live, how we breathe, our animals, our children? So I'm off my soapbox, but thank you very much for the time, and I apologize for
You're
stepping
good.
in like that.
You're good.
Because I didn't sign it, I didn't have a chance.
Just so everybody knows, there it is, and it's two sides.
Thank you, Chuck. Scott Seidman.
Go ahead. I'd like to speak after we finish, I'm on the committee with Chuck.
Okay.
But I have some different things that have not been mentioned at all.
Fantastic.
As you said, my name is Scott. I'm at 5431 FM 2101. For anyone that drives down 2101, I'm the one with the Christmas lights. I moved out to the country about 10 years ago, and one of the things that came to was I enjoyed the views. I can stand on my front porch and watch the sunset. I can go in the back and watch the sunrise. I can get home from work, and it's always dark because I work in Richardson, and the stars are always out. I can always come home and just look up, and it's like, it's worth it. I love the hour-and-a-half drive because I get to come home to such good views, such good areas. And I actually found out about it 2 days ago by chance on Facebook. I don't know. I know when they did the electrical, added the substation, we all got big old packets in the mail saying, hey, this is coming. We need y'all to come down here so we can inform you. And we didn't get anything about that, anything like that this time. I don't know if we should have. But, you know, when I go out on my front porch and watch the sunset, that's the exact location that they're going to be building this. When I go home at nighttime, you know, like she already covered, you know, the light pollution. It's the more light you get out there from, the less stars that you're going to see. But one of my bigger concerns is, you know, all these data centers that they're building, the ones that they've built in the past, what does that do to the community as a whole? You know, does it increase the property value? Because I sure don't want to pay more taxes. Does it bring, you know, housing development? Does it typically, you know, if the housing center that they had in the rural city, the rural area of Denton or wherever else, is it still rural with the basic outlay that was there and it's just the data centers there, but nothing else has changed? You know, I moved to the country for a reason. And don't want the city to follow me. But they've pretty much hit on most of my other concerns, but I hadn't heard anyone mention, you know, the property taxes or what it does if it brings other kind of urban development to the rural area. Those are my concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am, if you'd like to come up and speak.
I was trying to send you all an article, but it'll come after there.
If you will, just state your name and address, please, ma'am.
Thank you. Can I hold it?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd feel better. So,
That means you're going to preach, by the way, when you do that.
pardon?
That means you're going to preach.
I'm not going to preach, but maybe. Thank you for letting everybody talk, and thank you for this good crowd. It's nice to see here. When we're talking about solar farms, thank you. So I would like to bring up some of the. I'm sorry. I'm Karen Andre. I'm a physician in town, and I have a background in botany and agronomy as well, and so I'm very interested in the environment in the county, as well as your health. Okay, so what I'm about to talk about is both of those concerns. So I don't know if you realize, but there was a study from August of 23 to July of 23 that examined the ramifications of Bitcoin and AI energy production in our country. At the present, it's using fossil fuel for 90% of it, and it's 33% more energy consumption than the whole county of Los Angeles. I'd like to ask you if you know where the largest center is in the United States. It's northeast Texas. I'm going to send you a map. It's northeast Texas. There's one that's 1,200 acres that took up half of the Blackland Prairie, the largest section of Blackland Prairie we had in East Texas in Paris. It's 1,200 acres. So be it very clear, and I'm going to turn around.
Sorry, did you say that was in Paris?
Yeah.
Okay.
But let me be very clear so you understand. I identify with all of these people, with your property and your homes and your family, because you're proximal to it. But let me be very clear. The most severe damage in immunity, cancer, lung damage is miles away. It's the entire northeast Texas. It will be the entire Hunt County. We have what they call a turbo cancer epidemic now after COVID. You will not believe what you will see in this county from data centers, Bitcoin and AI. It's not just proximal. It's miles away more than proximal. Secondly, the cause to the environment is to our cattle. If cattle won't reproduce, and the majority of the health impact is miles away, what do you think that's going to do to our fertility, our miscarriage, our cancer rate, our children who are most vulnerable, and the elderly who are also most vulnerable to health impact? So as far as the environment, just for an example, when the Farmers Electric Co-op added their big power structure, I watched the pecan trees over 4 months change in their outline and their limb structure and their health. It's gone. This is a 100-year-old, not 400-year-old, not our wonderful historic oaks, not our most, but this is a 75 to 100-year-old pecan orchard that they left. I talked to the manager. I asked him to be careful, and he did some things, but they're on their way out. Watch their limb structure. The same thing with oak trees. That's an electric power plant. So, secondly, all the birds, all the soil, if it's going to do that to cows, what's it going to do to our microenvironment for miles of our soil bacteria? It's not just around there. It's going to be all our farms, all of our environment here, and it's not going to be retrievable once the impact is there, all the microbes. Then the water consumption. Look, I'm going to send you a map. Northeast Texas is the highest in the United States because we have cheap land. So whether it's money laundering or whether it's their profit, they're coming. So I would encourage you, there are counties in Texas, that Fayette County is one. I have a son that lives there. But they say no solar farms, no wind farms, no Bitcoin. We want to keep our county. Hunt County, we need to be leader in Texas saying, not no, but heck no. And to the ones that are here, we would like you to leave. Here's the reason. We don't want you to damage the people in our county. And I would project something to you. This is not going to be hidden information. When this comes to light, what will we say when there's a mass exit from Hunt County, where people don't want to live, a mass exit from Northeast Texas? What they say, I've got my children or my grandchildren. I think while land values are still good, I'll get out. We don't want to do that. We've worked hard to have a good county. I'm thankful to be here. I've been here over 30 years practicing different kinds of medicine, and I intend to practice many years. But we can't do this to our rivers, our waters, and we can't take away our water. All of us know that because of climate change, water is the biggest crisis in Texas. There's some big pockets doing some things to create new water. But we have a Natchitoches Reservoir under here, where my well is. That's all going to be drained away. My son was saying, Mother, do you understand how much AI is taken from water? Don't use it. He's a medical surgeon. He's not stupid. He's an orthopedic surgeon. He said, Mother, AI is so dangerous, not only to our water, but to our privacy. I'm not against tech, but please, you all should have read this. You should have investigated it. It's very unhealthy, not in the whole county, not just to Mr. Hollingsworth. I would hate to see it, but I live not very far from Wheeland. But it's not just me, it's everybody in the county. We need to be the flag-carrying county that says we care about most of all our people and then our environment, and we are going to stand and do what it takes to have a good environment, a good area for our people to live and prosper, and we're not going to bow to this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Look forward to that.
Thank you.
Look forward to that article. I'll send it to you. And thank you for everybody that comes, and be sure and write letters.
Ma'am,
Yes.
which county did you say your son lived in?
I'll send you the article.
Okay.
Yeah, I have it right here.
Yeah, we're very interested in that.
Thank you so much for your service. Thank you. And I'm behind you. I live in the county, and I really appreciate. But you all are our watchdogs. Have courage, have integrity, and speak up. And you know what? God will honor you. One of the jobs he gave us, the first job to Adam, was to steward the garden. And that did not end with the fall. And so we are to have our families, but steward our environment. So you all ought to think about this as maybe an opportunity to be the shining light in this Texas, in this state, and kind of take back what we need to have. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Charles Van Heusen.
Well, that's a hard act to follow. Hello, everybody. Charles Van Heusen. I live at 2588 Fox Point Road in Quinlan. I'm a young one here, I guess, because I've only been out here 8 years. I came out of Fort Worth. I've lived where they built the Facebook data center. I've seen that impact over there. But they built that right on a highway, so it wasn't in a residential area or impacting land like it is here. But I do work in this space, so I'm a cloud and AI platform specialist for Microsoft. Data centers are prevalent everywhere. They continue to grow, and they're not going away. So it's how do we get them to partner with us and understand what their impact is and being a good neighbor to us? Because if they're not going to be a good neighbor, we don't want them here. If you look at the studies that have been done, and I just found out about this meeting this morning thanks to one of my neighbors, and I'd actually started an environmental impact study that I'd love to share with you guys in an email afterwards. But the biggest thing that came out in January of this year was a HARC white paper titled "The Thirsty Data Centers in the Lone Star State, the Impact on Data Center Growth in Texas and the Water Supply," and how it's identifying the structural gaps that are there. If you go to South Texas, like Corpus Christi, where they've had a lot of growth down there from Tesla and those things, and look at what's impacted there at Lake Corpus Christi, there's below 10% water capacity in that lake. We don't want to see that here. There are multiple ways that have evolved in data center processing. Evaporative cooling, which is what they're talking about using, is the largest consumption of water that they can have. They can look at closed loop systems that could actually be more friendly to the water that's there, and then how they reclaim it and process that. If you guys are going to form a committee for studying this, I would love to volunteer to be part of that and kind of give you, what I've seen from our side, and I could possibly pull people in from Microsoft's team to introduce you what they're doing, because they have a large footprint in San Antonio and other areas in the country. But there's over 400 data centers in Texas. This isn't something new. They were called co-location facilities before, where large organizations would put servers in those spaces. They're all across North Texas. And so, it's a being surprised that there's something here in Paris, and the footprint that's there is just a step along the way. If you look at the water consumption targets right now, they're consuming over 26 billion gallons of water a year in Texas, and by 2030 they're expecting that to triple. Where is that water going to come from? Because Lord knows cloud seeding ain't going to do it, and these lakes aren't filling themselves. So as we're going to focus on that area, I think the water is our biggest concern, followed by the sound and the noise. If you look at the issue that occurred in Granbury with the Bitcoin mining down there and the impact on the neighborhood, they built it within 100 yards of a residential area. People are sick, animals are sick, they're not reproducing, animals are dying, people are moving. Even with noise cancellation headphones, they can feel the vibrations in their homes. So these are all things we need to take into consideration when they're building here, not only for this data center, but for future growth if more people come. Because what they're following is the train tracks. The train tracks is where they bury all the dark fiber, which is the core infrastructure behind all of the networking across everything. And so as long as we have things like we have from Highway 80 to Highway 20 and Highway 30, that's all the main infrastructure paths there. And so they're going to continue to be a part of the artery of North America for that. So again, thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Mr. White, you wanted to wait until, okay. Is there anybody else that'd like to speak at this time?
I've got a comment.
Go right ahead, sir.
I have a few email comments that have come in that I'm going to read now. A couple of them have legal questions that I can also answer to some degree. First comment is not about this issue, but it did come in after the meeting started yesterday, and our policy is to read these as well. This is regarding the Meadows development on the Hunt County, Collin County line. This is from Dana Mooring. Hello, Commissioners. I'm writing to express my concerns regarding the proposed development currently referred to as the Meadows, which is planned within both Hunt County and Collin County, near the city of Josephine, where I reside with my spouse and children. Josephine is a small, close-knit community with deep generational roots. Many families, including my own, value the quiet rural lifestyle that defines this area. Our infrastructure remains limited, and even basic developments such as traffic control systems, we are preparing for our first stoplight, are still in progress. Additionally, our school district already reflects the size and capacity constraints of our population as it serves multiple towns combined. Given these limitations, I'm concerned about the strain that a large-scale master plan development of this nature could place on our local infrastructure, including roads, schools, and public services. Growth is inevitable, but should be approached in a manner that aligns with the capacity and the character of the surrounding community. I also want to address concerns about community integration. New developments should aim to complement and integrate with existing neighborhoods rather than create separation. Josephine and the surrounding areas already offer housing opportunities, including new development and available lots, and we welcome new residents who wish to become part of our broader community. On a personal note, my family has deep ties to service and to this country. My spouse served 20 years in the United States military as a Black Hawk crew chief, including multiple combat tours overseas, 4 years, 5 deployments. Our family has experienced firsthand the sacrifices that come with that service. Because of this, we value stability, unity, and the preservation of community we choose to call home after his retirement. We could have chosen anywhere, but we chose to return home to Texas. Michael chose L3 Harris for continuation of his career in aviation. I'd also like to share a recent experience that raised concerns about transparency and communication. I attempted to attend a publicly announced meeting regarding this project, only to be informed upon arrival that it had been canceled and that attendees needed to leave. Many individuals who came did so respectfully and with the intention of staying informed. However, subsequent portrayals of the event did not accurately reflect the peaceful nature of those who did show up. Integrity and transparency and transparent communication is essential for maintaining trust within the community. I recognize that there are limits to what can be done at the county level, but I respectfully ask that all applicable regulations and legal standards be carefully upheld throughout this process. It's important that development decisions prioritize the long-term well-being of current residents, preserve the character of the area where possible, and ensure that growth occurs responsibly. Thank you for your time, your service, and your continued efforts to support and protect our community. I will just note for the record that at yesterday's meeting, the county disapproved that development or that preliminary plat application. The next one is from Sonia Dawson. The speakers for CORE mentioned a closed system, and they will test to make sure the water glycol solution will be tested to make sure it's still cooling. But what happens when that mixture is no longer cooling? How do they flush and replenish the system? Where does the water glycol mix go? How will they prevent noise, light, and other forms of pollution? Has anyone looked at the wintering location for bald eagles in the area? The next one is from Gary Andre. If the county does not have control over land use, is there a legal pathway that could limit the amount of water or electricity usage to a property? I fear the data centers will drain Lake Tawakoni. And I will answer that. There are a few legal pathways that can happen. None of them are controlled by the county. They're controlled by the state and the river authority, and through contracts with the local supplier. I'm not sure who the local water supplier is in that area, but limiting the amount of water is a complicated thing because any house that locates there, if the water is subject to an area of control with a PUC called a CCN, which is a certificate of convenience and necessity, then there's an obligation of that water provider to provide water, at least to homes. Now, whether or not they have to provide it to businesses depends on what their CCN looks like with the Public Utilities Commission. And heavy water users are viewed in a different way. Not necessarily because of water availability, though, but because of pipeline size and the continued provision of what's called fire flow control. And fire flow water is water that a VFD or a fire department can tap into and use with pumper trucks to fight fires. Most of the control on both water and electricity does not go through the county. It goes through the state agency called the Public Utilities Commission. All right, the next comment is from Linda Macklin. My name is Linda Macklin, and I live at 597 County Road 3103 in Hunt County. I have some questions and concerns regarding the data center that's planned for Hunt County. One, the representative from Core Scientific said yesterday that the company would not ask for tax abatements. However, the state offers property tax and sales tax abatements along with other incentives to build data centers in our state. Does Core Scientific plan to apply for any of those incentives, and how will that impact revenues at the county level? So I'm going to stop and answer those questions. Yes, the state does do those. It's not clear whether or not the state is offering any abatements for this facility. Most of the abatements that you hear about, though, relate to ad valorem and business personal property taxes. So basically, everything that I pay a couple of blocks away for my business is ad valorem tax or property tax on the building. And then the things inside are subject to a separate tax called business personal property. Those are the tax abatements that they're talking about that they're not going to ask for. Any state changes, the state doesn't have the same sort of taxation. When you pay property tax here, for this location, they pay it to three different groups down there: the county, the hospital district, and the school district. And down there, about half of that is at the school district. The other, of the remaining 50%, about 85% of that is county taxes, and about 15% is hospital. And all three of those would have to sign off on any sort of tax abatements, and it would only affect the taxes going to those groups. None of that relates to state taxes. That's a very different thing. The state's tax infrastructure, it comes from different streams of income. Now, they may be asking for those from the state, and the state may be giving them. I mean, there clearly is a state policy that supports these data centers. And it's being enforced across all the state-level agencies, which this county doesn't have any control over, other than individual votes for who your representatives and senators are and the governor. But to answer the second half of that question about how those incentives at the state level will impact local revenues at the county level, they don't. The county for sales taxes, the county does have the ability, and this county has rebated some of those sales taxes. We did that 10 years ago for Buc-ee's and a couple of other times. There have been many big corporate developments that have received tax abatements on ad valorem taxes. That's just for the county taxes. Anything that the state gives them will not have any impact on the county's tax income. It may have impacts on a million other things, but not on the tax income. Number two, did you know that they're expanding the Denton facility and have requested abatements for that site? Please note the increase in electricity demand because of the planned expansion. Number three, I found several properties owned by Telios Quinlan 1 LLC that are listed as type rural. Since Core Scientific is a for-profit entity, wouldn't the land have to be rezoned to commercial? If so, how does that impact what the company is able to do with the land? And this is an important point, and I think people who are listening and watching need to understand that classification comes from the appraisal district, and it is not a zoning classification. It's a classification for how they determine how to tax the land. All taxing value decisions are based on state policy and set of rules that kind of boil down to one little catchphrase called highest and best use. That's why if you own land right on the corner in the middle of a city, even if you're using that for cattle or hay, you don't get taxed based on that use. You get taxed as if it's a commercial property. That's the highest and best use, which causes people to end up usually selling that property because they don't get the same sort of tax abatements. These properties, and I just looked this up on the CAD website, this comment is correct that the Telios Quinlan 1 LLC has all the properties down there together. They all have a reference on the CAD website that they're type rural, but that is not a zoning issue. It is how they tax it. There is no zoning in that area because the state does not give authority to counties to zone areas, except a very small number of counties that are either very large, which we are not, or counties that have certain specific lakes. And Hunt County does have zoning authority within a certain distance from Lake Tawakoni. That's a different thing. Zoning is a completely different thing from taxation categories. And so this type rural definitely would be changed because that's clearly not what is going to be happening out there. It's a commercial enterprise. That type would change, but the most important part of that is that it's not going to be taxed as a rural empty piece of property. It'll be taxed as a large and valuable item. And so the property taxes would increase tens of thousands of percent on those particular properties. They're paying very little in taxes right now because they have an agricultural exemption. Effectively, the county gets no money from those properties. If the $4 billion facility goes in, the appraisal district would change both the type and would definitely change the value of those. And that would have an impact on everybody else's taxes because of the way that local government budgets work. So the local governments figure out how much money they need. Separately, the CAD goes out and figures up a total value of everything in that area. And then those two numbers are multiplied against one another to come up with the tax rate. And so if there was a $4 billion facility there, it would necessarily drive property taxes down, at least the first year, that it's taxed at that rate. And it's also important to keep in mind that the change in budgets doesn't happen for several years. Because budgets are set in the summer. They start for the tax years, or for the budget years, which are October 1st, the day before that, the next year. And during that 12-month period, everything relies on the budget that was set that previous summer. Taxes for this sort of thing wouldn't be assessed until the building is complete, and it wouldn't be collected for another year. And so even if they started construction today, it's still going to be 2 to 3 years before anybody would see any impact to their underlying tax bill. And as far as the last question there, would that have any impact on what the company is able to do with the land? The answer to that is no, because it's not a zoning, it's just for taxes. And so you can buy a piece of rural land and do, as far as tax rural land, do anything with it that you're allowed to do by right. Out in the county, that's a bigger set of things that you can do than in the city because of zoning and because of other regulations. But that current classification on the tax website as rural doesn't have anything to do with what this company can do with the land. Question number 4, the representative and the engineer from Core Scientific both said that the technology they intended to use for cooling is new. Do they use that type of cooling in any of their other facilities? If they do, how is it working for them? If they don't, why not? Number 5, can the county get documentation regarding the ERCOT approval and its process? Definitely the county can get that. Those documents are publicly available. The last comment is from Dennis Qualls. I've watched the Commissioners Court meeting on 3/24/26, and I'm very skeptical about the owner's presentation about noise levels, electric consumption, water usage, and disposal of wastewater. I've seen many negative situations from property owners for the data centers and other areas such as Sulphur Springs, legal actions to stop the data center planned for their area. The owner has 295 acres total, and I see much more expansion as time goes on. Me and my family live within 2 miles of the planned area and do not want this to proceed any further. I'm asking to do whatever actions Hunt County can do to stop this.
Does anybody else would like to speak? Come on up, sir. Could you just say? Just state your name and address, please, sir.
All right. My name is Gail Rose. I live at 5308 County Road 3507, which is a crow flies, it's about a mile. Speaking of that, we have a family of hawks that live across from me. And I'm sure that's just one pair of wildlife. But yeah, like I say, it's about a mile as the bird flies. And so the noise and the traffic is a big concern. We had a lot of traffic while these other facilities were being built. 18-wheelers on a county road. That's never good, never good. Numerous rock trucks, I mean, daily while all this was going on. So from my point of view, I see the traffic will be back with a vengeance. So you had the traffic, the noise, the fact that 800 workers, how are they going to get there? They got to get there some way, and they're not going to bring them in with a helicopter. So those are my viewpoints on this, definitely against it, along with most of my neighbors. And I'm amazed that my former neighbors sold this land. Mr. Wallace was one of my neighbors for close to 40 years, but his heirs, I will reserve judgment. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Sir, come on up.
My name's Gary Andre. I live at 7377 Point Aquarius. That's a nautical shores development on Lake Tawakoni. Just wanted to say thanks for answering the email, but also my concern is for Lake Tawakoni. There's a lot of people like me live on the lake. We've got boathouses on the lake, and they've been there for a long time. So the concern is for the use of that water. And then, so another aspect from that would be that Lake Tawakoni is not just Hunt County. It incorporates Rains County and Kaufman County, and it was built to supply water to Dallas. So you've got a lot of counties involved with the use of the water that should be involved with this process if they're going to use that much water. Just food for thought. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
SRA comment.
Yeah, I do want to talk about that because I think that's a really important concern. Obviously, I deal with the Sabine River Authority that controls that lake a lot because I'm the city attorney for Greenville, and we just expanded the water pipeline down to Tawakoni at the cost of $250 million. So we dealt with SRA a lot for that process, but we're also dealing with them related to wastewater and to retaining water here in a new 100-acre water holding tank just outside of Greenville. And so the water contracts with SRA, the Sabine River Authority, which is a state-level agency, every piece of water in surface water at least, in the state of Texas is controlled by a river authority. The river authorities were set up by the state to contract with local users which are mainly cities and special utility districts, groups that provide water. Everybody's water in here goes through SRA. That all goes through contracts. Gary and I had a meeting with the SRA representatives a couple of weeks ago and specifically asked, has this project, either one of these projects that we're talking about here, even approached the SRA and asked about water usage? And the answer was no, none of them have. And I will tell you, that's an interesting answer because every single drop of water in Lake Tawakoni is spoken for, all of it. And I mean, Greenville has, I think, 13 million gallons a day as part of its contract. They pull that water 22 miles up and put it in the giant reservoirs north of town. And then Greenville treats that water and sends a lot of it to Caddo Mills and a lot of it to the east side of the city and Cache. The entire middle part of the county is served by that one pipe. And so that's a huge concern for Greenville as well, because if the lake does run dry, then we're talking about 100,000 people and businesses that won't have water. And so our contracts are central to, or a central issue with our contracts is whether or not there's going to be water to even get. And that happened a couple of years ago when we had the drought, 7 or 8 years ago. Greenville's take line is on the northeast corner of the lake. And the lake ran so dry that the city was within a couple of meetings of spending tens of millions of dollars to build a channel out to the middle of the lake, to the deepest part. And we were saved because there was one week in a row where the lake filled all the way back up and then over the dam on the backside. But these water groups, because all that water is spoken for, they can't just go stick a pipe in the lake. They have to have a contract with the state. Every single bit of that water is already contracted for and taken. And so longer term, that means that they're going to have to do one of two things. Either the state is in this upcoming legislative session that starts in January, is going to have to change the rules and allow municipal utility districts and groups like this to force those state entities to give them water. And you should all watch for that because I've definitely heard that that's coming. Or they're going to have to contract with the local water supplier that's in that area that has that CCN legal coverage area. And that's where the real rubber meets the road. Because that's the group with control. But none of the areas, none of the people in Hunt County or any of the other 2 counties that touch Tawakoni have a whole lot of excess capacity. Because you're right about, I mean, most of that water goes to Dallas. And most of it's contracted to Dallas. And the Sabine River Authority controls 2 other lakes, one small and one gigantic lake that could supply the entire state for years. But there's no pipelines that go there. But the water running dry in Tawakoni can't legally happen by giving water to these groups unless the people who have that CCN contract the rest of their rights away, which means that there would be no water left over for housing or any of the other sorts of developments out there. But the potential of the lake running dry because of the data centers wouldn't happen with at least these first 2. If there's a lot more, then there's going to be more water issues. But as far as the contracting ability or the contracting scope, SRA did tell us the other day, and they've told me many times, because I go and ask them for more water for Greenville constantly, because we supply all of that development over in Caddo Mills. They have been saying for years, and I have copies of their contracts, and so I know they're not making this up, all of the water is spoken for currently. So all of that authority is going to come through whichever water utility district supplies that area. Do we know who that is?
I think it's Cache, isn't it?
Cache.
What they said.
Yeah. So that's going to come through that pipe. And it's going to be subject to Greenville's contract and Caddo's contract with Greenville. And then that's going to be the only choke point. That choke point will go away if the legislature changes the law to be able to allow these people to force additional water rights to either be taken from cities or gives them straight contract authority to work on contracts with the river authorities.
Did you say you were the city attorney?
Yes.
Both. I'm the county civil attorney, not the elected attorney, and I'm the city attorney for Greenville.
So if they did want to try to push that water issue, forcing it, you can fight that or not?
It depends on what they're asking for. The city of Greenville doesn't have the CCN, Cash does. But Cash gets their water from Greenville. And so there's a layer of 3 contracts. One between the Sabine River Authority and Greenville, then between Greenville and Cash, and then between Cash and whichever major user there is. Any one of those 3 could potentially be brought to bear if there's a major water user. If they use the amount of water that they're talking about yesterday, the amount that a super Walmart uses, then there likely would be no contractual authority to stop that just based on the way that water rights are set up in the state. So the answer is potentially. It just depends on what their final usage ends up being.
Yeah.
Is there any representation from the Cash Water Board here?
No, but I heard from the Cash Water Board that they have already submitted to have water to the site.
And I believe that would probably be, the company would be coordinating with all utilities for service to that area, so that they can get are you able to serve us? And so their service letter would have been based on what the anticipated consumption was. And like I said, yesterday, you heard them brief, they're using a closed loop system, which would drastically reduce what we all were expecting. That doesn't mean all data centers that would come to the area would have a closed loop system. And that's why it's important for us to figure out where our authorities are to what we can get control of to make exceptions with.
Gary, if I may.
Yes, sir.
Harris Hollingsworth again. So on the water issue, or water in general, like I said, I just found out about this yesterday and I'm still a little struggling with it. I asked about the 70 acres, if they could build multiple facilities on the 70 acres. And it was said that they've got 70 acres. So they can unlimited for the next 20 years build on it. Well, I'm talking about the site where they're talking about the 70 acres primarily, because it's right in my backyard. So if they got Cash Water and they started doing all this, what if if somebody put a little pressure on the water, what if they dug some wells out there? The county wouldn't have anything to do with that, would they?
No, sir.
And so I presume some of these people in here probably have wells. I know for a fact there's 2 farming places out there, 2 agriculture places that irrigate with that well water. And I could see that place sucking that water table down and people losing water possibly. And my last question I didn't get to ask earlier, I thought about, is we're all up here talking about all this, and does the county have a way to say no on this or not right now?
Daniel, you want to address that?
Yeah. Please.
So wells are regulated by yet another Texas entity called the Texas Railroad Commission. And I know that wells don't have anything to do with railroads, but neither does oil, and that's the big job of the Railroad Commission. But they do regulate that. It may be regulated by an overlay district called a groundwater utility district, but I don't think that exists in this county. I haven't heard of one. I certainly haven't dealt with one. Not yet. Are you going to put one together? Are you wanting the county to? I don't know if the county can. Yeah. So that is definitely a big concern. I mean, out in East Texas, further east from here, there's been major changes in water wells, mainly because of Bitcoin mining and the usage of water by those groups. But you ask a second question, as far as what the county can do. That's part of why we're having this meeting, to determine all of the technical specifications of this, to determine what it is going to be, because that's not even clear yet. Most of the regulatory authority related to addressing pollution goes through a different Texas entity called the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. They have general first level oversight. Cities have some additional authority and counties have a lot less through a code called the Water Code. There's a Chapter 7 of the Water Code relates to local authority related to pollution. But almost all of that authority is after the fact. Where the real regulation comes in that the county has any authority over comes down to the things that we're discussing now. There's definitely been some discussion. I've talked with our local state rep, Mr. Money, who's talking about introducing a bill to give the county some regulatory authority for certain areas, specifically so that the counties have some leverage to cause the businesses locating here to be transparent in what they're using and what they're going to do. Like the question earlier, where does the water and glycol mix go once it's done being used? That is something that's directly regulatable by the state. They can't just dump it out. They're not legally allowed to dump it out. Where it goes into usually big corporate facilities or commercial facilities like the ones on the west side of Greenville, the city sewer is where that goes. And because of the powers that the cities do have, the counties don't, the city's been able to force all of those new plants to pre-treat their water before it goes into the system. Some of it because, like at the facility that makes paper or grass-based to-go containers on 1570, it's because of the effluent containing too much foreign material that the bugs at our wastewater treatment plant can't eat. Some of it is because it would kill the bugs at our wastewater treatment plant that treat urea in the water and our other processes to get waste out of the water before it's put back in the river. It goes right back to Tawakoni and right back into our mouths. And so the county's authority to do anything is the exact purpose of what we're doing here, because in order to know that, we need to know what is coming in so that we can match that up with all the codes that do give counties authority. And if it's not county authority, but it's some other state agency, then the county does have the ability to go through the rulemaking process, which basically the county gets notices allowing public comment on a lot of different environmental things that come to this area. Like every time a concrete plant wants to come in, or a batch plant for a sewer system. Like one of the things that caused the county to disapprove the development yesterday was because all of the requirements for the sewer batch plant don't appear to have been met. And so the county has the authority to make public comments only when rulemaking is open or when a permit is up for consideration. But outside of those two areas, currently the county doesn't have a whole lot of authority. And that is because the state won't give the county authority, or at least hasn't yet. It's very important when you're talking about these types of applications to understand the difference between cities and counties. Cities, there's 4 types of them, but the big ones are called home rule cities. They can make their own law as long as they're not regulating something the state already regulates. Counties, on the other hand, are little pieces of the state. There's 254 little pieces of the state. And after the Civil War, they changed all the laws to make it very clear that counties only have the authority that the state gives them. And currently, the state hasn't given counties a lot of authority of the type that would be needed to even address most of these issues, much less stop it. That can be changed by the legislature, but there's not a big push to do that, not currently. Because none of their voters have talked to them and expressed, we need this. So there's your real power here is your power politically. And the political power only comes down to changes in state law, because local law that comes from the state currently doesn't allow the county much power really at all, other than to have these kind of meetings and to, I mean, most of the county's authority really comes down to the leverage that it gets when it's being asked for a tax abatement. If they're not asking for a tax abatement and they can build it by right, the county's authority really comes down to a very small number of things, which are effectively nil compared to all the state authority through those through the TCEQ, PUC, Railroad Commission, and ERCOT.
Thank you, Daniel. Folks, I know there's still some, hang on, Ms. Davis. I know there's still some questions and all that. We're gonna move right in because we only have one action item, which is obviously discussing this a little bit more. So we're gonna give you an opportunity to come up then as well, but let's go ahead and move into this. The action item is to discuss recent developments on data centers, and Commissioner Gary Smith's gonna start that off.
Afternoon, everyone. First of all, thank you for being here. Thank you for coming out in the middle of the week. Not always easy to do, so we do appreciate your involvement in there. The whole gist of what we're trying to do today is exactly what y'all are talking about. Is can we get more knowledge? Can we get enough information to go forward? One of the biggest things we want to do here today is what are we asking ourselves to go do tomorrow, and then the next day and the next day, to try and get our arms around this and have a good solid plan that gets that attention that Mr. Ray was discussing at the state level, and make sure we're organized about how we see things and what we need help with. And so that's the intent of this meeting. So it's a little bit different than what you're used to. It's almost feeling like a town hall to this point, which is fine, because we're still looking for your inputs, because we're recording those. We have a lot of them down from emails and text. And oh, by the way, all of the AI researchers on Google and everywhere out there, all the information you're gathering, thank you. We do appreciate it. We do want you to know you're creating a massive demand for data centers while you're doing that. So when we go there, so what you're going to experience here for the next few minutes is what we don't normally do when we're in court. We're going to make sausage. And so my friends up here, we're going to try and talk out some things about where we're at and things we want to go do. So this is not like a regular court where we're supposed to be authoritative and know all the answers. We're trying to work with each other here to get an agreement about how to move forward. So I want you to understand this little piece is going to feel just a little bit different. So with that being said, you'll notice up on the screen, we've kind of talked about just 6 topics just to kind of guide the meeting. This can go everywhere, but oh, by the way, this meeting could last for 3 weeks nonstop. And so we have to have some things we want to get our arms around today, at least with what it is we need to go do from here, actions we want to go take that we'll then bring back to the court for formality and votes and all those good things, of which, we'll make sure everybody sees that. So that was the intent. So early identification. So I think we'll answer some of the questions that you had today. Certainly we will not be able to answer them all because we don't have all those answers. Early identification, certainly your concern, our concern as well. How do we engage the state, which is what Mr. Ray was just describing a little bit. If I don't have the authority, how do I get the authority? What are the rules that I can have? How can I engage to actually help manage the development responsibly in our areas? Areas of regulation, we understand that the answer may not be no, may not ever get the authority to say no, but it should be how. And if somebody can't answer the how, then the answer can be no. Data center tours, best thing you can do is touch it, see it, smell it sometimes. I think a lot of the members here, as we talk about this, may be interested in doing that. Subject matter experts, Ms. Davis mentioned that earlier on. We need to get some people in to talk to us about things, to try and figure out where we're at, what our opportunities are, pros, cons, alternatives, different ways to address this issue. Certainly very interested in Fayette County, Mr. Monroe, right? That very interested in how if they're able to say no. And then town halls. So with that's kind of what we're going to go through here for the next few minutes. And so you'll have to decide how you want to interact. But for us, this is sausage making. Please don't get bored, because we're going to try and figure a few things out.
And if you do have questions at the end of it, we're going to let you come back up and I know, Mr. White, I know you want to say something. We'll get you back up here in a few minutes.
Because if we don't address it, it doesn't mean we didn't mean to. We didn't think of it, or we just skipped something by accident. Bring it back up, because a lot of this is about what we do tomorrow, okay?
We have to go, but we want to thank you so much. We so appreciate all the hard work you guys are doing.
Thank y'all for coming.
Thank you.
So this is the very first item. So we want to talk about early identification, because that certainly is a problem. Nobody in this county believes that the folks up here don't know before it happens. So I wanted to take just a minute to go through that, because we need to talk about what can we do different and how we can get around that. I'm certainly interested in these guys. And once again, this is me just creating a list to talk about. This is everybody involved. This is not me doing this by myself. This is input that says we've got to find answers from everybody. So you notice the Core Scientific, that one was a press release. When you saw that press release was the same time we saw that press release. We had not been contacted by Core Scientific prior to that, ever. Telios had been here a year ago, asked a right-of-way question, and we never heard from them again. Okay, so that was the extent that we had on that particular item. There was a call for zoning conversations. So that's the one that everybody's talking about down in the Bowles home south of that area, north of Quinlan. They're because it's within 5,000 feet, like Daniel spoke to earlier, there's a conversation around that because they know that they won't meet the zoning with the property they're talking about. I'll yield to Mr. Monroe. You recently had one about 911.
This one came in, we always get accused on Facebook that we know everything going on. I was off Monday all day for a funeral for a good friend of mine. I get back, this email came in at Monday at 10:38 a.m. And it was to the 911 coordinator looking for an address. And the reason they were needing an address, I'll just read the email. I have a site that requires an address because AT&T won't allow fiber installation without one. I want to see the steps required to obtain 911 address. Well, this is a gentleman, I'm not going to read his name, but he's not from here. The 911 lady goes to looking up the address that he submitted from where he was, his current, I guess where he offices out of. He's out of Farmers Branch. And guess what? It's a BT Gateway Data Center LLC company. And they purchased property over in the Royce City area off of, it's County Road 2656, off of 66, right on the Hunt County line. We found out about it, I found out about it Tuesday because I was off all day Monday. Well, guess what? I'm just bringing it to light to the public and announcing it, but I want to find ways where we can actually find out about this. I think the state needs to at least give us some authority when these people are coming in. If they wouldn't have had to get a 911 address or to run AT&T, we wouldn't have known that they were even there or on this property until they put a data center or whatever. I'm assuming that's what they're going to do. They're a data center company. But we got this stuff coming in from different angles, and I'm not trying to be a jerk, but it gets old. People on Facebook sitting here bashing you all the time about they're getting money under the table, they're doing this, they're doing that. That really gets tiring. But I just wanted to bring this out that I got this, like I said, Monday at 10:38 a.m. It's the first time we ever heard of another data center possibly coming to Hunt County, Texas. But I would like to see, I don't know how we would do it, but I would like to see how we could, it's going to have to come from the state, I assume, that they have to at least tell us that they are potentially coming into the county before we just get surprised about it. Because I think we need ways that we may not be able to stop them, but I think we need to be able to control them. And they need to come here responsible if they're going to be here. And we need to be able to have some authority to say, yes, you can do that. No, you can't do that. You do have to, if you are going to put it in, you're going to put this kind of system in. If you're here, you're going to have to provide fire service to that area. You're going to have to fix the roads. Different things that we need to talk through, but we've got to somehow get the power from the state to let us regulate some of this stuff. And I don't know how we're going to get that, but.
Well, and kind of like what you're saying, David, I believe it was yesterday, we got an email, actually County Development got an email for a culvert permit. They sent it over to our assistant, and looking into it a little bit further, thankfully our staff looked into it, but it's a culvert permit just north of Neelanville, I think it is, Brian, asking for a culvert permit. And looking into it a little bit further, their name looks like it's going to be a data center. Again, have not contacted us. We didn't know about it till yesterday until they asked for a culvert permit. Kind of like what David was saying, you know, the culvert permits are free. We don't charge anybody for them, but if we had a way to permit some of this stuff, whether we charge or not, but you know, that doesn't really matter, but that would at least give us the knowledge of what's coming into our county. But again, we can create a permit, but we have no teeth to it to hold anybody to make sure that they fill that out. So kind of like what he's saying, these things are popping up, but they're not coming to us unless they're required to for a culvert permit or a 911 address. We don't know about a lot of this stuff.
So, and then there was a question earlier, so I want to try and address that. And David, I'll probably have to yield to you here. There's a constant question about a data center going in on 2276. You'll notice there's nothing out there, or these folks have not mentioned about a data center on 2276. I don't believe anybody's aware of that. David, I don't know how much you can add to it.
That company that's going in over there is not a data center. Mr. Toole and I went with him last week, and I told him, I said, you need to contact the company that's going to build over here, and they've got two options. Either they can come forward and say what their intentions are, move forward with their plans, or I'm about to come forward and tell what they've told us they're going to do with their plans. So they've agreed they're going to put a website together, and they're going to share that with us so we can share the information to the public. But it's not a data center on, and I think someone earlier referenced on 2276, that property. That is not a data center going in over there. Mr. Toole and I asked again last week, and the guy said that it's not data or solar planned over there for that property. So that's things that, like I said, I'm not going to get on my soapbox. It really is a struggle to take arrows all the time and get accused of different things.
Could you post clearly for all of us so that we could help you and write our state representatives? That's the issue I'm hearing. The counties need more power to decide what's best for the people of their counties and to keep out something dangerous. So we're behind you. So if you post how we can write our representatives or senators or even the blurb or whatever, so we might be able to help us. If Brett Money says we're trying to get a bill, but you know, we could write the water district. I mean, we've had issues with them before, but they should decide about the water in our county that affects everywhere down to the Gulf. But anyhow, just help us by maybe somewhere posting where we can put these different entities, state entities, that we could write and ask that you all have some jurisdiction more than you have.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I'm thinking we have counties throughout.
Gary, they need to come forward.
Yeah, if you don't mind, come forward, please, so we can all hear you.
I tell you what, if it make it easy, I'll bring a microphone to you.
I have a deep voice, I'm very sorry. I'm listening to this and I'm thinking, we need to go up. We have all these counties in the state that are probably all going through the same rigmarole
Yes,
and
ma'am.
decisions and meetings. Why don't we just require any data center like this has to go through the state and record, request, permit? So not only do the counties know, because the original application has to go to the state level, we also can accumulate all of our concerns. all the permitting, all the infrastructure, and put together a document that they all have to comply with. Because we're all trying to create our own set of rules because we have unique situations. But it seems to me the most logical way to go is to have every one of these data center companies have to request it through the state. That's
So,
my statement.
Your great segue for the next slide that we're going to get to here in about an hour. So what I've heard is everybody was talking is, an avenue that people come to us is 911. They have to come to the county to get that address. An avenue is septic, but septic can be way down the road before somebody would need that permit. Culverts, you need a permit for a culvert, but let's be honest, people put culverts in every day. Then we come back and tell them they have to take them up because they're 10 foot too short, and they do all that, or they just fill in the low spot and drive over it. And so those are ways that we have, but they don't all get us up front. I'd be curious, guys, anybody got any thoughts or ideas, at least short term? I mean, Brian, most of these places don't require a plat, right? Because they're over 10 acres.
No, if they're not subdividing into smaller than 10-acre tracts, they're not required to plat. The only other place that comes to mind right off the top of my head is if there's floodplain on the property, then they are required to have a development permit, even if they're not developing in the floodplain, if there's floodplain on the property.
Brian, just so the public knows, the 10 acres and above or 10 acres below, you said we don't have authority for the 10 acres and above. Is that county regulation or is that state?
That's state.
Okay.
That comes out of the local government code. In fact, everything that we do through our development regulations, subdivision regs and requirements and all that good stuff, it all comes from the state. None of it is above and beyond what the state allows because we can't go above and beyond.
Gary, you mentioned something on the septic that's usually, the latter end of the project or whatever. Is there a way that we could legally, like if you're going to build a house, a business, whatever on a piece of property, you have to get septic permitting before you start construction, or does the state give us that authority? Because then that would be up front that you would know at least something's going in there.
And that would be a better question asked to the health department. We have a septic order through the health department, and it is more strict than the state. Of course, it took a long time to get approval from the TCEQ for that order, but I don't know at what point in the development process that septic permit is required. I believe it is before you put in the septic. So it's not necessarily something where you have to come in, you have to get that permit before you can start building. You just have to come in and get it before you can install the septic permit. Now with commercial development, and any kind of commercial developer that contacts me requesting commercial building permits or wanting to know information, obviously we don't have commercial building permits, not in the unincorporated areas more than 5,000 feet from the lake. So typically, I'll refer them to the health department. You need to talk to them about your septic requirements. You need to talk to them about fire marshal requirements, which we don't have an adopted fire code, but we still have a little bit of loose authority there. But I always direct them to it. But 7 times out of 10, I get a tire kicker call. That's what I'll call them, just someone that's asking fairly general, fairly broad questions. They may not divulge what they're doing. They may ask all kinds of questions. I'm like, hey, if you'll let me know what you're doing, I can custom tailor this answer for you. And they just don't want to. They don't want to give you that information. They skirt around it. You never hear back from them via email, whatever the case may be. So
Daniel, I'm curious. Can we require, with no regulation, right? No cost, no whatever, but if you're going to do business, and I'm talking about something we can do right now while we work with the state, right? Can we require, if you're going to do business in Hunt County, you have to come get a permit? Permit has no requirement, no regulation to it, no cost to it, just you have to inform and advise us. Can we do that?
The simple answer is no. You can't do that. The state doesn't give counties authority to have that kind of regulation. That regulation does exist in cities because cities have different abilities to make law, and home rule cities, which are cities usually more than 5,000 people, have the ability to put other regulations in place. Some of that's really actually been eroded by the state over the past couple of sessions through some preemption bills. One's called the Death Star bill that basically removed a lot of city authority related to business regulations.
So even if it's just a permit that has nothing tied to it, you can't even do that?
Not currently. Not without, that would take a major change in at least 3 different Texas codes. Currently, the county doesn't have the authority to do anything along those lines.
What about the fire code, if we were to adopt a fire code? I've had a couple of questions about that in the past anyway.
If you were to adopt a fire code and you had a fire marshal, which we already do, then the fire code can be enforced. There's 2 different ways to go about that, either adopting an international code or the one that the Texas State Fire Marshal has already adopted, and that can be adopted by counties. It wouldn't give the county the ability to regulate in a way that has anything to do with anything other than fire, danger, or health and safety changes. It would give the county some authority to enforce those specific requirements. But I'll tell you right now, if a company is partnering with a group or borrowing money to build a $4 billion facility, they're definitely already going to comply and exceed the requirements of the fire codes that can be adopted, because those are very minimal. And they mostly have to do with, the circumference of a cul-de-sac and things like that. But they're not regulations. They currently haven't caught up with, I know some of the concerns are for battery farms, those things catching on fire and burning and hitting a certain point of heat that causes this condition called thermal runaway, which means the fires cannot be put out. They have to be allowed to burn out. And the fire codes currently don't even directly address that issue. And so I know that some people think that adopting a fire code gives the county a lot of additional authority, and it does, but it does in relation to health and safety issues, like how many people can be in a room and how big the cul-de-sacs are and things like that. It doesn't give the county any sort of authority to say no to a business like this.
But it does, I think it does do some decibel level
I don't know about that.
regulatory.
I haven't looked into that.
Yeah, I'm not positive, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
But the
Well,
big
there's
thing,
a
what you're
state
saying
law.
is if we had it, would it allow a upfront contact with us as opposed to somewhere down the road? That's the point, right? Trying to get
Or
them
would
on
it
the
give,
radar.
at a point of sale, would it give us point of sale would be great if we knew when something was sold, but that would be
Yeah.
ridiculous.
It definitely doesn't do that. It can't do that.
Can we
It
do
could
anything
for
at the
certain
point of sale?
regulations. I'm sorry.
Can we do anything at the point of sale? If a piece of property is sold in Hunt County, it's just a notification to us that it's sold?
Well, we don't even have to get notification that it's sold under
I
current
know,
law.
I'm reaching.
But
It's a stretch.
honestly, I don't know the answer to that because I haven't researched that issue about whether the county could further regulate that. Almost all Texas property law is pro-owner freedom. And so anybody has their ability. I mean, that was part of the reason that the county changed the subdivision regulations yesterday, was to figure out how people are going to try to add restrictions later that might be illegal. Generally, though, counties don't have any authority related to the sale of property, absent special circumstances like sexually oriented businesses or things like that, or for specific industrial uses that are regulated by the TCEQ or the EPA. Like Andrews County, just north of Odessa, has a nuclear waste site. And the county does have a lot of authority, but that authority is generally overshadowed by 2 federal and 1 state agency group. I don't know the answer to your question about whether there's anything that the county could immediately do that would affect point of sale notification. There's definitely nothing that the county can do to prevent a sale, though, absent those much bigger environmental potentials.
So thank you.
Yeah.
And one thing I do want to take just a second to remind everybody, because it's very important what he was just saying, because we all want this because we're worried and concerned about what can happen, right? But also remember, but whenever we do that for Company A, let me change the name from Company A to Property Owner A, it now can belong to Property Owner B. Whenever you get that requirement over here, that becomes a requirement for everybody in this room. And so we also want to make sure we're honoring the Texas way, right, where it's our land and we do what we want. So there's a balance there.
And also,
What people need to understand is when it affects somebody else outside that property, we need to think about those consequences, because that's why we're all in here today. We've got people down in the city that have no idea what's going on here, making decisions for us.
Yep.
And the same with someone that bought the land, sold the land.
And what about the federally protected animals that cohibit the properties that and the surrounding properties that this data center is going to be built on? The federally protected, the horned owls, the bald eagles that may be nesting in the area. Isn't there some way that y'all can outreach to that?
I'm putting it on the list that you'll see in just a minute.
Also, real quick, hang on just a second. In case, I know we got a lot of new faces here. No, I don't need that. Thank you, though, Tyler. But Brian Toole's with our county development. He's the director of county development, and his assistant's Amanda. So I just want to make sure everybody knew who he was when he was up here speaking a while ago.
So in the interest of time, so as you can see, our avenues to see and know this as early as possible are limited. And so far, we've got 3 out of 4. We found out more or less by accident or indirectly because they were doing something else. And actually, one of them has actually contacted us. We just haven't had the meeting yet to actually have a conversation. And so we have limits. And so we're going to keep working that, because a lot of that is internal to the county, and where we can put some choke points on it, to try and get a hold of those facts sooner. And if you have ideas and thoughts, please send them to us, because we're looking for those. Yes, sir. Probably need
Microphone.
I think people probably hear me. Since 2 of the major issues involved seems to be water consumption and pollution, the thought comes to my mind that the Sabine River Authority has some power to deal with any kind of activity that might affect the viability of Lake Tawakoni. Have you considered the possibility that they might ally with Hunt County?
Yes, sir. As a matter of fact, on the one that contacted us wanting to have a conversation, Mr. Toole and I actually have contacted SRA, want to know what their involvement is, what they know, what their rules are. Can they engage with us when we do it? Because to the point, I don't control water as a county. Sabine River controls the Tawakoni water. We're asking them to partner with us to be part of that, and we're trying to get them involved in the process. So yes, sir, you're absolutely correct.
Good, thank you.
So what I'd like to do, because I want to get into the some of the meat of the things that we need to take from here. So a lot of the things that we're talking about, it's how do we go forward, right? And so we want to go on record. A lot of the things we're talking about have to do with the state. Made reference to how other counties are doing things. And so we certainly want to get on the record with the state, asking for help, asking for insight, asking for leverage, asking for regulations, whatever those things are. And so gentlemen, I don't know, I put things on here that are just options, right? You're right. I see what other, Wise County did a resolution. Delta County had a AG letter. Yeah, go ahead.
Van Zant had a moratorium. Can you talk about that?
So we're looking into this. They have something where they have been able to go block. It wasn't directly at the data center, but it had to do with some of the things about the way the data center is built. Certainly, when we get to a slide here in a moment, we're going to be asking for people like that to come sit down with us and tell us what they did. You'll see it's under alternative paths. What is it that you did or we can do that will help us, at least get this in a pause so that we can, get control of the rest of it? Because if we wait for the next legislature, a lot of this is going to be moving forward. So we're trying to, see if there's ways that we can go do that. So there are some other ways.
Chief, you have something to say?
I'm Buddy Oxford. I'm a resident of Greenville, Texas. And I had to go to Google to confirm my memory.
You didn't use a data center for that, did you?
Well, here it is. Does Governor Abbott want the state of Texas to be a data center capital of Texas? Yes. Governor Greg Abbott has heavily pursued a strategy to make Texas a nation's leader in data center development, specifically targeting artificial intelligence growth. His administration promotes Texas business-friendly regulations, abundant energy, and incentives to attract billions of investment for tech giants. This push has made Texas a top competitor with Virginia. Massive investment. Governor Abbott announced major partnership, including $40 billion AI data center investment, aiming to get Texas at the forefront of AI revolution. I'm just bringing this up because you're encouraging us to work with the state government, and I don't know that's going to be the answer. So I just wanted to
you're absolutely correct. It is a desire. I believe that one of the quotes was, Texas will not only lead technological innovation, Texas will lead technological infrastructure. Well, guess what? Data centers are infrastructure. So you're correct. So there is a desire to go do that. I think what we're wanting to do is get our arms around all these areas of concern so that we can put it on record with them and say, got it, but we need some help with these areas to constructively manage and be responsible as we become the technology infrastructure king. What I understood from yesterday, when Core Scientific spoke to us, is that the governor has established it was a working group. I can't remember the name of it, but it was a data center working group to start evaluating what is it that we need to do in Texas to do this responsibly. Now, I don't know beyond that what that means. State Representative Money was in the room yesterday, trying to, get his arms around and get a feel for this just like we are. And he was willing to partner. He did state that, to your point, that data centers are going to be a big thing in Texas. But he was wanting to, how do we protect our lands? How do we protect the size of tracts? How do we protect our resources? What are the things we're doing? And so we need to get inside that committee, that working group, to try and understand what they're doing. That's why this is, what is the avenue that we need to connect with, whether it's at the state representative level, that committee level, the governor level, the AG, to try and get on record. Because you're right, there's the snowball is rolling.
Thank you.
Yep. Yes, ma'am.
Microphone.
Hang on. Yeah.
Can you take the microphone to people, Tyler, and that way they don't have to get up?
Somebody.
So we got to get to this.
Thank you. My question is talk into it, okay.
Ma'am, the reason we do that on the mic is because it's recorded, and so the public can hear that's watching.
And that's fine. I wonder if Governor Abbott has any ideas how many data centers are attempting to be opened in the counties in the state of Texas.
And I have no idea. There's 135 right now that are under development.
Okay, but again, my statement earlier was, if they were required to go to the state level to fill out an application that they're attempting to open a data center or in some county, I would think that Governor Abbott would want to know, because that adds one more to his tick list of data centers that are opening in the state. Right now, I bet he has no idea, and there's no database that I'm aware of that will list all these data centers and where they're located.
And that might be something, with Representative Money, maybe he can, down in Austin, find out, at least for the counties he represents, find out a list of the data centers that possibly are coming into the counties he represents. So that's something we can ask him about as well.
So guys, in the interest of time, because we actually want to do something here. Yes, ma'am. We're going to have to slow the questions a little bit. Ms. Davis, what do you have?
I want to comment that on your civil attorney mentioned about supplying comments on the permitting process. He just referenced it, in fact, as far as you county officials go. But more importantly, I worked for a regulatory agency out in California with the environment, and really it was important that the people actually commented during the permitting process. And in fact, if there's a lot of comments, they can take that into consideration, and it might require an environmental assessment, which would then tick it off to the EPA. And if the EPA gets involved, then there is definitely going to be evaluation of the facility. And with respect to what my friend had stated about certain protected species, many of the development project has been held up in California just because of a little tiny minnow. So I can imagine what kind of consideration there might be, because owls are federally protected here, and in eagles too, and that's our national bird. But importantly, that's really important, and maybe then our state representative can supply us with when these permits first come under review, because typically when a permitted facility will have to place a notice, or the agency might place the notice in the newspaper, where a local newspaper only has a circulation of 1,800, and we have tens of thousands of people who live in the county. And just because you don't happen to live in the next door to the facility does not mean that you won't be impacted, especially as the good doctor said earlier, is that you can be impacted miles away. Like us in Hunt County, we're upwind of the pollution that's generated in the DFW area. In fact, we're the nitrous oxides that come out of the cement plants down in Midlothian combined with the car emissions, the hydrocarbons, and it forms the ozone. And real importantly, a lot of people don't know, they call it dust or haze. That's actually particles in the air, and frequently they come out of stacks of industry or out of the tailpipes, and those are the ones that can cause cancer. So the permitting process is really important and not to be overlooked. But when I mentioned about a group getting together, I mentioned a task force, but a voluntary environmental group could be formed. And I'm not averse to joining such a group. I just didn't want to be involved with the government because I didn't want any kind of conflict of interest. But
Like I say, Ms. Davis, I've got to keep
Okay,
this
sure.
court moving. I appreciate everything
there's
you have
also
to say, but I-
litigation too that county could do.
Yeah. So thank you. So, Mr. Ray, I guess on this particular is if we want to engage, whether it's resolutions, attorney general letters, what would be our best avenue, and what would be the steps that we would need? We certainly, the next pages, we're going to have the things that we want to be included in that. What would be the best avenue for us to engage with the state?
Mainly just open lines of communication between you and the people who are in charge. But in addition to that, the county attorney and the district attorney have the authority to ask specific legal questions to the attorney general in the form of an attorney general opinion request. There have been two of those here lately close by, one in Hood County, just south of Fort Worth, and then one from Delta County. Those questions were very different because Hood County, which is one that's cited a lot in people's desire to put moratoriums on things, Hood County voted on the third try, voted to approve something similar to a moratorium, but only because they were given special power by the state through a special law. That doesn't apply here or in any other county in the state. The Hood County Attorney ended up a few weeks ago sending in a letter to the Attorney General asking for an opinion on the legality of that. Delta County has done the same thing, sent a Attorney General letter through their elected county attorney, Jay Garrett, to ask for input on the legality of moratoriums as well. And so a lot of the legal changes, that's not going to have anything to do with the Attorney General unless there's a gray area in the law that is kind of open to interpretation. And then you can say, what can we do about this specific thing? But the AG doesn't have to answer questions that are speculative. And so what we can't do is send in a letter to the Attorney General asking, well, how do we stop these things, or anything specific like that. They can only answer questions about issues that are, number one, ripe, which means that they're real and on the ground and not just speculative things. And then they can only answer questions related to how should we handle this specific aspect of Texas law as it applies to that ripe issue. All of the other power does come down to the rulemaking comments, and the public definitely has the option to comment on those things. Those are the complicated thing is most of those don't go in the newspaper. They under Texas law, they are published on the websites of the TCEQ, PUC, and Railroad Commission, and they're very difficult to find. I look for those things all the time, and it's difficult for me as somebody who's looked for them for 25 years. It's difficult to find locations because of the way that they're organized on the websites. Really, I mean, the best thing that can be done to make sure everybody's in the know about all those things when they happen is for a network of a grassroots network to get together. And that's also, I think, important for talking with people that are in almost complete control over this system, which is people at the governor's office and in other state leadership. Because they're really the only ones that are going to have direct access to that early information.
So is that request, I'll jump here real fast. So, these are all the things that people have been talking about, right? As we've gone through this kind of in the roll-up levels. So is it sending something that talks about, regulatory control, access, some authority? Is it something written that includes those areas of concern and 2 or 3 that have been added here today that we would add to that? Is it writing something around that and then sending it to a legislator, sending it to the governor? I mean, sounds like the Attorney General is not the appropriate path because we're not asking for a ruling on something. We're asking for the ability to do something.
Yes, and I can go one by one and say who that should be sent to. Water consumption is through the river authorities. The river authorities are controlled by the legislature, and so the legislature is the right place to send it. Same with power impacts, except it's not through the river authorities, it's through the PUC and ERCOT. Those are controlled by the legislature. The commissioners for those entities are appointed by the governor. And so the real power, though, for rule changes comes from the legislature. The power for how those rules are used comes from the governor and through the appointees. Power planning, that's an ERCOT thing. ERCOT is, once again, controlled by the legislature. And the legislature also has a lot to do with what kind of power is going to be, that the state is looking to bring in through policy. And the answer to that is a lot of it and everywhere it can go. Discharge and contaminants, that's both state and federal. The state through the TCEQ, federal through the EPA, and various other agencies related to that sort of thing.
So I won't make you go through the whole list. But your point is that there's numerous places that those specifically go. So is and so guys, y'all need to jump in here with me. But so are we really saying that the highest? I'm an old corporate guy, so I still think in terms of org charts, and so I don't go send a letter to everybody's org chart. I send it to their boss. In that case, is the only common thing here the governor?
No. The main common thing is the Senate and the House, because they're the ones that set the rules on both what the county can do and then things affecting almost all of the rest of these. The governor's control comes from the ability to leverage state authority or state taxes and incentives, and his authority to appoint members to the commissions. Like the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality is controlled by 3 people that he puts in charge. They appoint somebody to be the executive of that group. And so you're talking about 2 different things, both the law and then the policy. Because the policy can just take what the law says and put it into practice. And so there's 2 kind of sides of power. But the most important part of that, that I think can affect most of these things, are rule changes at the legislative level.
So that's pretty much to our state rep and our senator?
Well, not just your state rep and your senator. There's 31 senators in this state. They all have different people in their areas that are concerned about these things. And this is definitely going to be a major issue come January, and even leading up to January. Most of the bills that actually pass are legislative priorities of the people that are in charge, and those bills are drafted starting right now. I mean, now that most of the contests in the state have been decided, we know with a 90+% certainty who's going to be in almost all of those offices. And those people already know who they are because the primaries are passed. And so all the people that are in place right now that are going to be your state reps or senators, those are the people that need to hear these concerns, because those are the only people that really have the ability to change the law. Can't be done by judges.
I know it'd be hard to answer this, but is your recommendation then to send a letter on behalf of the court, citizens of Hunt County, to all senators and representatives in the state then?
I think that would be a great idea. And I know that there's lots of other counties that are working on that. I represent 2 other counties, and at least one of them has had probably, Rains County has had 6+ hours of meetings about the impact of green energy and big industrial sites like this, and has been approached by Van Zandt County to participate with them in that effort to cause a moratorium on green energy. There's a lot of different efforts in place, but contact is the only way that those places know, or that those people know what's important to the public in general.
So do
Those
we
have way more impact than most people think.
So do we have enough information here to ask you to start crafting what that looks like with the words as we go through? Is there more that we need to provide you?
Or what you've worked on with other counties, mirror it, for Hunt County as well?
No, nothing that I've worked on for those other counties would have any impact
Okay.
on this, because all of that comes down to research on the legal ability to force a moratorium. All of these things definitely can be, at least the start of those, but there are key pieces of information that I think you're missing, because we don't know exactly what these impacts are going to be. I think we're kind of at the start of that process, but there's lots of other people working on it. The most effective way to do that is for the county commissioners court to support a specific set of legal changes. And we have, in fact, Hunt County supported one of those a couple of weeks ago, because Judge Ransom and a couple of counties over used to work in the legislature, and his idea is incremental change related to support from local governments. And so he asked this county, and this county did pass a resolution supporting a specific bill that is tied into the codes within the right code in the right location with the right wording and title, because without all those things, it's basically ineffective. And we sent that in to the group that's going to lobby for those changes and gas tax apportionment to this upcoming legislative session. That's a very carefully crafted thing. That's a very, surgical change to a long-term existing law. What we're talking about here would take up hundreds of pages of legal changes. And those hundreds of pages come down to, they're not hard to write anymore because of AI. But they are, it's very important that all of these have those missing pieces of information. Because right now, I mean, just from my review of this over the past couple of weeks, there's a lot of misinformation out there. And supporting a set of legal changes that would give the state authority, more authority, or give the counties more authority than they already have, first of all, is mostly going to fall on deaf ears. Because the state for 6 sessions in a row, 12 years in a row, has done nothing but take authority away from local governments because they've been combating what they see as liberal counties and liberal cities like Travis County and Austin. And because the Constitution says they can't take a power away just from one place, they take it away from everywhere. And so some of those changes are going to have to be undone, and they don't really have anything to do with this. Because even if all these things were in place, to say that there can be regulation of that, unless the changes are made to state law that remove the limitations that they've already put in place, those are going to be hollow and unenforceable words. There's a lot of very complicated connections between all the codes and the regulatory scheme that the state has that would have to be addressed through those laws. But it definitely can be done. There can be one single law that passes or one bill basically that passes that has an impact on all of those areas, and changes a bunch of different codes at once, because you can change more than one code in a single bill. The problem is if you try to do it all at the same time, the number of committees that has to go through it increases. And so the better way to do it is to support a series of bills that have different effects on different codes in these areas and are all self-referential one to another. Because without that self-referential kind of quality, or at least a section that says this supersedes all of the cuts to authority that the legislature has made over the past 12 years, it's going to be worthless. But there's definitely a way to do that, and that is a much better way because you're doing most of their work for them. Once that goes in, it goes through a complicated process of committee review and legislative council review before it even makes it to the House floor or the Senate floor. And then they both have to pass the exact same bill. And when they pass a slightly different bill, that goes to where the real power in the state is, something that nobody's ever heard of called a conference committee. Conference committee is the one that tweaks the bills before they can go back. That's where most of the important things that you've seen and heard of, the reason they never come out of the legislature, is because a conference committee will pocket veto them and run out of time. And so it never gets back to the floor of the House or the Senate or to the governor after that. There are definitely different ways where these powers can be given back to the county or given to the county for the first time. It's just a complicated and long process, and in order to do it, it would have to come along with some background reasoning, and that background reasoning is going to be based on those pieces of information we don't have yet, but I think that we can obtain.
So
go ahead. No.
So you mentioned moratorium, kind of going back to your previous slide there. You know, that's something else that we were kind of curious about. Other counties have put it out there that they've done a moratorium. You said you've done some research on it. What have you found out about it?
I don't think that that's on the agenda for today in a way that we can discuss, but we can put it on a future agenda. Just generally, as a moratorium might apply to this kind of situation, all the things that you're hearing about right now apply to green energy. What you're talking about is the 391 rules that allow counties to go together to work as a lobbying unit. For the most part, that's not going to have the impact that most people believe it will have.
So that wouldn't give us a way to pump the brakes and try to get our feet under what's going on?
It depends on what you mean by pump the brakes, because what it does is puts potential red tape regulatory things into place. The legality of that red tape and the impact that it has on timing has not been decided by a court. And so there is a feeling that it would cause some ability to pump the brakes, at least for a few months. But those groups are, the counties that are working together are not doing it just based on that law. They're also looking at all of the other things that could potentially relate to that, like the state laws related to not using Chinese elements in green power system, and other state laws that allow some kind of sideways regulatory authority that might not even be being used yet. The idea is to work as a working group, but all of their focus is on solar farms. It's on green energy generally, solar farms, battery farms, and wind.
I certainly think getting somebody with some, here in a minute, we'll talk about subject matter experts. 391 would probably be one of those that would be of value to have somebody come and talk about that with us.
Definitely.
How do we engage? Should we engage? All that kind of stuff. Well, but we haven't done anything. So I think what we're Daniel, it's kind of a simple. So as far as wanting to go forward with something, I'm trying to figure out, are we saying we should or shouldn't? I mean, I know that's going to be up to us, but I mean, if we say we should, which is what I think everybody will want to do, I can't speak for everybody, but how can we make that where that it's simple and effective to get it out there? Would it be better if we engage with Representative Money about sponsorship and doing something like that?
Oh yeah, that's definitely where it needs to start.
Okay.
Because and our senator is Angela Paxton.
Yep.
For this part of the county, southern part of the county is a different senator. He has a small sliver. And, starting with the people who actually represent us is an absolute necessity because without local, the local senators or reps supporting something, it hardly ever gets passed unless it's a statewide legislative priority, and stopping data centers is not. And so it has to go through the local. And if there is no support from the local people or the local government units, then they're not going to support it either. And so if there's a legislative fix to this by drafting a bunch of things that could become laws in the form of a bill, that is item number one. Different counties can certainly work together, but it's, getting support from the public on those is the most important by far.
So guys, if y'all are interested, I think the plan here, as far as what we do from today, is one of us can take the action to get with representative, senator, ask them to engage with us, tell them what we're looking at, what we need, and ask them for their support and even help us organize how the best way to go about it is to get attention. Is that a fair action for us to look at?
To draw a bill up?
Well, let them advise us a little bit, about what it is they think would help get the ball rolling, so to speak.
You think that's the best method?
I'm asking. I think as far as what I'm hearing is if we put this entire list on there, it becomes hundreds of bills and pages and all that. Although I would love to see what AI could do with it. I think getting a shortcut with our representation might be a better answer at this point.
I agree.
I think reaching out to our state rep, Brent Money, would be good, and I appreciate you volunteering for that.
Well, I know he kind of already drafted a little bit of a bill that he tried last session to put through. So, if we can work with him and tweak that a little bit, especially out of the concerns from the citizens, and get him to support it, and with our support behind him, and hopefully we can find some other legislators that are willing to back his bill as well, would be great.
I'll take the action to try and coordinate with him and see if I can get that all before the next court thing. All right? Tour. So anybody want to go see one?
I do.
Yep.
Everybody like to see one?
Yep.
So I know that Core Scientific made the offer to go look at the one they have in Denton, that it may not be exact, but it'd be similar. I also heard something about the largest one in Texas in Paris earlier today. I mean, I would love to go see what the biggest one looks like and find out what the, issues are associated with that. Would anybody think that would be a good idea to go see that one?
Can I ask Daniel a question about that?
Absolutely.
Daniel, are we able to go all four and go look at one together? Do we have to go separately? How does that work?
No.
You're smiling.
No, you really can't, because the Open Meetings Act requires that if there's a quorum of you, so 3 or more, that has to be part of a meeting if you're either receiving or discussing information that is something that's in your area of regulatory authority. So you just have to have a public meeting, and none of those people are going to let you have a public meeting in their facility.
Can we do 2 by 2 and it not be an issue?
Yes, but you can't talk about it then because of the walking quorum rules.
But we could have 2 people go to Denton, 2 people go to somewhere else, come back to court and discuss it there?
Yes, that all just has to be open discussion. If the 2 of you went to both places, that's not the same information at different times, and so you just can't. And I know that seems really burdensome, but that is the law, and there's no way around that. And so all of that would just have to be discussed in open court, and you can't. If even one of you talks to somebody else, everybody accidentally commits a crime, and so it cannot be discussed.
So we've certainly got the offer for Denton on the table. Would somebody be interested in seeing, and if not Paris, somewhere else that we could find?
Someone mentioned the one in Granbury.
So I appreciate you volunteering to see if that's possible.
Real good restaurant there.
I was gonna recommend that, if it's okay, that I'll go with Darren if that's fine, or anybody. 2 of us go to Granbury, 2 go to Denton, and then maybe the following, same week or whatever, we'll all 4 visit the same sites at different times, and then we come back to court and put all of our thoughts together on what we think about them. That way we're not violating any laws.
County government works easy to make stuff happen, isn't it?
Yeah, as long as we can stretch it out as long as possible. So Dave, would you help with identifying the second location?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. All right. Let's see. So similar conversation. Let's see. Subject matter experts. So one thing I want to make sure we do is that we're balanced. Right now it's easy to Google and come up with 100 to 3 that are con. Certainly, I'd like to see some folks roll in that could speak to both of those aspects. I'd like us to see people that can speak to risk. A lot of things we've talked about is fire. The whole financial thing. How are they valued? Benefit to the community. Benefit to the county. I mean, I won't go through every one of these, but all of these things, I think we need to see if we can find people that can speak to.
Well, we had a presenter or speaker earlier, Mr. Van Heusen, if he's still here or not, I don't see him. But he volunteered to help out as well for that.
I have another guy that might be interested. I'd have to talk to him again.
Yeah, because a lot of that was around setting up a committee, right? And so I'd like to get the subject matter experts kind of rolling through. Okay. And the reason being is with a committee, all the commissioners will not be involved all the time if they have separate meetings. And I think in the get-go, we all need to get educated as best we can. And then move it into committee so that we understand when they feed back to us, if you think.
Yeah.
Certainly go down. So we can kind of take these. We don't have to settle it all here. I have spoken with people. The 391. I actually have a name, somebody there that would be willing to come talk. I know Judge Stovall's out this afternoon. He had somebody, I think a judge in Bosque County, who has active ones there. We were curious what their experience is. And then I've got a fire marshal. So I could get 3 people that I can think of off the top of my head to start, some of this conversation. Power Water, would you guys have any idea, or can you go do some homework there to see if we can find some folks that might have some expertise?
I don't mind reaching out to, I think, is it FEC that's supplying that over there?
Yes.
I don't mind reaching out to FEC and to Cash Water and see if we can get them to come brief us and then let us ask questions. How are you gonna guarantee that you're gonna have enough water? How are you gonna guarantee we've got enough electricity?
Okay,
The guy I was speaking about is with North Texas, so.
North Texas Water District. So David, if you'll do the FEC and Cash, Darren, you have North Texas Water District. I will also, I will attempt to work on the financial valuations. I think I have a good name, I just don't know if I can get them here. I'll have to go check that one.
Yesterday we had talked about, one of my concerns over them is we have volunteer fire departments. I've talked to Biggers, Chief Biggers yesterday. He said he's be willing to speak with us on from the volunteer side because it's limited resource with volunteers. He said he would be willing to help us out
do
and
that.
kind of navigate through the fire stuff as well.
And we also need to connect him with the Van Zant Fire Marshal. Who I think has some significant experience that might be here, so we'll see if we can get him involved as well. Okay, that certainly gets us started, might lead us down a couple of different roads after we get information, but we'll do that. And this one, and the good news, folks, is this is the last one. So Core Scientific says they're willing to hold town hall on their own. And so that's good, right? So a lot of the things that we have today are certainly questions that people want to have answered, at a next level. They're willing to come in. I think they probably do more than one. Their suggestion was they would be willing to do this, come in, certainly more of a detailed presentation than what they do. They were introducing themselves yesterday. But they're in the Lone Oak Independent School District is where this was actually located. They were suggesting go to the Lone Oak Independent School District, see if we could use the facility. Because we wanted to, have something large so as many people could come as wanted. And then they were open to timeframes and sounded like 30 days, they would be willing to do something. Anybody?
We can make this an evening event, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Sir? Or Saturday?
Yeah. Has anybody got a heartburn with them doing that?
Nope. Well, I mean, that's the only one as of now that we have communications with.
Right.
And if they're willing to do it, then maybe they can help.
School's still in session though, so we'll have to make sure there's.
In the evening time? Okay.
Got it.
Good idea.
So a little coordination to do that.
Okay.
So since I had the pleasure of engaging Core initially, I'll take that. Jessica, can you and I work together, kind of see what kind of dates we can get lined up? Okay. And then, I think they'd probably be willing to do more than one, and so we'll get the first one to do that. Is 30 days good? I mean, I know we're still gathering a lot of information, but the sooner the better for them, because there's two paths here, right? What is it they're doing, and then what is it we're trying to figure out and do? So I think they're independent, and somewhere down the road, I think there's a feedback from us back to the community as well. We just have to get through some of these meetings, some of the subject matter experts, some of the meetings with the representatives to kind of get a feel for where we think we're headed with this. So I think right now we get the first one started, and then that'll give us enough time to get the ball rolling for ourselves. You guys agree with that? Is that fair?
Yeah, I
I think
think
it's
so.
fair.
You good?
I think the sooner the better.
Yeah. Yeah, we can't let moss grow on this one, that's for sure. So I think we have kind of some things for us to go do to kind of gather information back up. I believe that would be the the end of the items. Like I said, this was sausage making, guys, and so this is about trying to get organized in what we can do or what next steps for us are. So thank you for living through that.
Are we going to talk to Representative Money before we try to do a moratorium to kind of slow this thing down a little bit, or what do we decide
Well,
on that?
Daniel was gonna look into more, since he's working with other counties, and it wasn't on the agenda today to talk about a moratorium.
Okay.
He's gonna look into that a little bit more, but, you know, as far as Representative Money, I think we need to go. Thankfully, he was here yesterday. I think we need to go ahead and engage him, as soon as we can to start working together on it.
Which he did show an interest yesterday.
Yep.
He did say he was interested in working with the county to come up with a smart and responsible answer, so.
Now, to close this out, I know, Mr. White, your audience has deteriorated a little bit in here, but you still have a little bit.
Thankfully,
Big finish.
We miss seeing you on Tuesdays, by the way.
Oh, don't say that, Dave. So I just had a couple of points, and one of them was really gone into by Daniel Ray, is the legislative process. And the reason I wanted to highlight that was because there were actually 3 people here yesterday. Mrs. Haynes from Core Scientific, the engineer from Telesis, and their legislative guy who was standing back in the door beside me. I had the opportunity to just kind of converse with him during that time, so it's sometimes good to be in the back of the room, right? He is their legislative rep. In fact, he has experience both in Washington and as a state rep here in Texas, and basically said that next legislative session, there's going to be a lot of potential changes in data centers, including a requirement to have advanced cooling systems. And they're already headed down that path with a closed system. Obviously, my background's mechanical engineering, so we did a lot of really advanced stuff when I worked out at that facility, including immersion cooling with very unusual materials like fluoral inerts and other things. They didn't really say exactly that I heard the actual material. It was water and glycol. There's lots of things that can be water glycol plus. Okay, so that would be really important to find out, because they said they would bring in the fire departments and local fire departments to help understand and train them on fire suppression. I'm like, ding, 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 wait a minute, you said water and glycol. That shouldn't be concerning. So now it's a concern because they said they would help train. The other point, the advanced cooling. So from a legislative process, one of the things that would help alleviate all of the water requirements was to have advanced cooling systems that are closed loop. So there's not this giant drain on water. There's still going to be a giant issue with electrical power grid and things like that, which I can't address. I don't know who's going to address that. But don't be just thinking about data centers alone. There are other massive facilities coming that are not data centers that are going to have huge utility power drains. So in the drafting of whatever letter we send, we want to make sure that we cover other things that are going to be giant utility drains on the local resources. So that was my general comment. So thank you. Appreciate it.
No quote?
We love you.
Let me think real quick. Let me see, John 3:16.
There you go. There you go.
We're good. Thank you,
Yeah,
guys.
that's always a good go-to. Yeah.
All right, anybody else like to speak before we close the meeting? Come on up, sir, please. There you go, Brian. Brian will bring you a microphone.
Make it fast. One thing that I want to do is to thank Commissioner of Precinct 3, Mr. Smith, for putting this information in the Herald Banner, because that's the way we found out about it, and we found out about it earlier today because we don't read the paper every day, but we read it pretty faithfully. The other thing that I want to say in terms of a quote is that artificial intelligence is an oxymoron of the first order, because if it's intelligent, it's not artificial. And if it's artificial, it's only as smart as the person who created it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I do thank you, but I do want to make sure everybody understands that I got the opportunity to post things and all that, but it's the court wanting to move out, and and make something happen here. So I wish I could take all the credit, but I can't. It's certainly a group that wants to do the right thing, but thank you for that.
Well, and I think we also, not necessarily today do we need to nail down, but we need to look at doing another one of these in the near future as well, a special session or something like that,
Yeah.
just to bring back what we found out, and then obviously if there's any more concerns from the public as well. So. All right, nothing else before the court today? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, so, I just have some concerns in regards to, as you can see, this is a child's, and this is.
A cute one, too.
Yeah.
Thank you. This town is not yours or his or hers or even mine. This is the future that we gotta worry about.
Sure.
All right, so in 10 years, when all the water is contaminated and all the trees are gone, what are we gonna do? What are they gonna do?
There's nothing this is, today marks a point in history where you can either stand and protect the future and protect this world, or you can allow these people to come in here and run through on with their billions of dollars when they could be putting these things up in space, but they're doing it here in our beautiful state of Texas because it's cheap and because we have people that are going to allow them. And I know you guys have been talking about Mr. Money. I notice your last name is Money. Do you have a personal line or?
He's a cousin.
Okay, well tell your cousin,
Already
your
have.
cousin to and amplify it, run it into him that this is serious. This is not child's play. This is not a game. This is people's lives. This is our water. This is all of our infrastructure, our electricity. In 2021, our grid couldn't support a winter storm. And our politicians, they decided to go out to Cancun because it's easy for them. It's not a problem. They're not affected the way that all of these normal people in here are. We are deeply affected, and whenever this data center wrecks our environment, I'm pretty sure you guys are not going to be here. You guys will have made your money, but the rest of us will still be here. We will be here. And there's not going to be a way to fix it. There's going to be no way to fix it. Because what's done is done. And that's my piece. So please, for the future, don't even take it into consideration. Take it to heart. Simply take it to heart. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, anything else before the court today? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion for adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned at 3:27. Thank you, everyone.